Hey guys, what's up? So in this particular lesson, if you are a 2019 UPSC aspirant, newspaper are changing in dimension, newspaper are changing in the scope, and the questions which are asked in the mains examination are no longer direct questions. They are very convoluted, they are very complicated, and they will touch upon various dimensions, and they will never ask directly what they want to ask. So in this particular lesson, I'll talk about how to read the newspaper and what should be your approach, so that you will be able to score very high marks in the newspaper section if any current affair MCQs come, or in the prelims, or as well as in the mains. So the Hindu is your Bible, let's say. That is the most important thing, without which you cannot get selected. But in the present changing scenario, it is always good that you read few articles from Indian Express as well. So try to cover Hindu holistically as much as possible. Do not leave anything in that, anything important that means. And try to read only the editorial and the op-ed pages of the Indian Express. So that is all you will ever need to do. So you should not take out more than 3 hours to finish the newspaper. So this point is absolutely clear. In the beginning, for the first 1 to 2 months, you should never give more than 3 hours. Now this 3 hours does not include only the reading time. These 3 hours also include the time which you will need to make the notes out of the Hindu. Because without making a proper notes out of the Hindu, you will not be able to revise before prelims or mains. So you will not be getting selected in the prelims if, let's say, 40 questions are asked from the current affairs. So 3 hours includes the time taking to make notes from them, and eventually it should come down to 90 minutes if you are making notes out of them. And if you are just reading it, it should be like average 60 minutes. So including notes, it should be 90 minutes. Okay. So try to aim for that. Initially it has to be less than 3 hours. At no point of time it can never be more than 3 hours, because your effective study hours are 8 to 9, and if 1/3 of time is going in the reading the Hindu and making notes out of it, then you are doomed. You will not be able to succeed. Please do not have a casual approach towards newspaper as if you are reading a novel. This is a very big mistake which people do. They read a newspaper just like they read newspaper. But this is not newspaper, this is your study material, and you will have to identify the important points. Okay, so Shakespeare's, let's say, sonnet can be novel for somebody, like a leisure reading for somebody. But if you are an English literature student in Delhi University, so that is your bread and butter. Similarly, if a bureaucrat is studying the Hindu, that is fine, he may read it like a novel. But if you as an aspirant are reading it, then it has to be like really sincere, and you should not supposed to be read like a novel. It should have a sincerity, and read it like if you are reading your optional. Try to be very serious about it, because newspaper tends to make your base, and without this base there will be no reaction, and without this base you will not be able to build upon that. Now try to make notes from the newspaper only when you have understood an article. Why it is important? Because if you do not understand a particular article, you will not be able to do critical analysis of that article if in case it is asked in the exam hall. If you do not understand a particular article, you will not be able to know what points are important and what is to be left. And try to see the notes of the toppers. Okay, so just like don't use the notes of the toppers, but at least see the notes of the toppers, so that you know what kind of notes these people make, so that you will be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. So one of the biggest indicator which I particularly see is if I solve last 10 years question paper in prelims and last 10 year question paper in mains, so I can easily identify what are the strong areas from which the Hindu newspaper is important, and I should read those articles. And I can also identify what are not so strong areas from which questions are not usually asked, and I can leave those articles. Okay. So this is an important point. Make notes from the newspapers only and only when you have understood an article well, and you know what points are important and what is to be left. So then one of the good practices some people prefer is to take 5 to 10 minutes, mark the relevant and important news editorial in the day's newspaper, and then start reading the marked items. What do you mean by this? Let's say newspaper has 24 pages. Obviously you do not know which page is important and which page is not important. So one of the good practices which you can personally follow is that you can take out 5 to 10 minutes. You can mark the relevant portion. You can mark the important news or editorial in the day's newspaper. You can start reading these marked items. So that part is very important, and this way you will not lose the focus, and you will be able to save time. Otherwise, if you are going on the go and you are deciding whether to read that article or not, it will usually turn out to a 3-4 hour business. But as I've already told you, even if you are a beginner, even if this is your first day reading the Hindu, you cannot take more than 3 hours because it will really backfire. You should not develop bad habits from the beginning. So before you start to read the newspaper, just mark that these are the articles I'll read, these are the articles I'll not read. So then your willpower is saved in later on. Now again, like many people do copy paste from the newspaper, they even take these cuttings of the newspaper. Please don't do such stupid things. These cuttings of the newspaper, nobody ever reads them, and people only eat achar on it and samosas on it. So do not ever copy paste from the newspaper. This is the most important point. Try to write relevant points in bullet form and in your own words. So these points are absolutely clear, and keep the margins on both the sides of the page to add extra points and aspects later on. So because you never know that your notes are complete or not, maybe there is a future development, so try to keep this margin, or if you do not keep margin, you can use sticky notes, so where you can paste it notes, whatever you want to call it, so you can write the extra information over there. Now you must not read political news, sports news, crime related news, Bollywood news, Hollywood masala stuff, sports page, and all the supplements which come with the newspapers. Okay, so all this is absolutely nonsense. People study art and culture supplement, nothing has ever come out of that supplement. People just do it for a self glorification exercise. Just mug up both the prelim and main syllabus and the last 10-year question papers of pre and mains, and anything which does not even remotely relate to syllabus is crap and should be skipped altogether. And similarly, try to avoid regional news at all cost. Don't study Delhi news if you are in Delhi, Karnataka news if you are in Karnataka, Bangalore, Tamil news if you are in Chennai. That will never be asked in the UPSC because it is a union level exam, not a state level exam. Do not read news from the state of publication of newspaper, and some trivial news items on the last page of Hindu, like archaeological excavations, lifestyle news, social experiments, etc. Now always try to analyze an issue in the following sequence. What exactly is the issue, its pros, cons, strength, weakness, whatever you want to call it, and what will be your suggestions, what will be your constructive feedback to that particular issue, so that it gets resolved. So most of the articles, they can be analyzed if you apply this test. So what exactly is the issue? Try to identify, try to define it. Who are the stakeholders, who are the parties, how will they be affected, what are the pros, what are the cons, and what are the suggestions. So general topics which you must read is bills, acts, constitutional amendments, new bodies and institutions, government initiatives and schemes, then geographical phenomenon, disaster management, economic trend, reasons for the same, like decline in growth rate, reasons for it, landmark judicial decisions, its analysis, example NJAC section 66A of IT, right to privacy, news related to environment and ecology, various reforms and development in science and technology, health sector, which will have an impact on the society. So thank you for watching this lesson.